Hi, friends. Welcome back. I have like a new light setup going, so we're just going to try that. But welcome back. I hope everybody had a very fabulous week thus far. I feel like as we're entering the new year, like the proper new year, we're getting close to like the proper new year. I'm starting to feel a lot of just like a lot of things come up, a lot of resting, a lot of exhaustion, and just a lot of like final purging at the end of the year. If anybody else is feeling that, um, you're not alone. I'm curious if anybody else is kind of on the same wavelength. We also like the astrology of January is like really crazy, so kind of makes sense that we're starting to feel that way. But that's a side note. Today, I really wanted to get into the topic of community and also matriarchy. I'm going to talk about how those things are connected and also sort of the shifts that I feel we're kind of going through as a collective. Um, but if you're somebody who you've been going through your healing journey for a really long time and you've been, experiencing your life for a majority of time with this very strong inward force, and now out of maybe not out of nowhere, it's been brewing a little bit, but over time, you've been now starting to feel this outward energy where you feel the desire to go out into the world and not even go out into the world, but specifically build community. And I think a lot of us are actually feeling this. I think a lot of us are starting to really crave community and like real community and doing community in a way that we haven't done it before in the past. So, if you resonate with that, you're looking to build community, but in a new way, in a way that you haven't done it or experienced it before in the past, then this will hopefully be a really good video and starter of discussions for that topic because I'm so curious and I really want to hear everyone's opinion. So like feel free to just like, throw all your thoughts in the comments because I'm just so curious on everybody's experiences and ideas on this. But yeah, I recently have been feeling this really big shift and desire towards community building. And like I said before, I think a lot of us are starting to feel that. So we've been going through massive burnouts and crumblings of systems and social structures falling apart, and a lot of kind of darkness coming up to the surface for a lot of us to see and grapple with for many, many, many years. But I would say since COVID, it's been like at a very all-time high to the point where we can't run away from it anymore and we can't ignore our intuitive senses anymore. We can't ignore the truth anymore. It's getting to a point where it's really, really bad. And obviously it's a sad, scary thing, but we can also use it as an opportunity to decide to build something better. And for a long time, because we were going through a lot of this, especially if you feel like you're very intuitive and you're very like you're a super aware person, then you might feel like um, you were sort of kind of on the front leading edge of this kind of transformation, and so you've probably been spending a lot of your time just doing your healing work in your little bubble, creating your art, thinking, overthinking, learning, researching, expanding your mind, just kind of in your own world, like a little caterpillar in a cocoon, right? And I think that now we're finally in this time, and I've said this in a lot of videos before, that we're kind of entering a time now of visibility and sharing gifts and connecting and communicating. But I've talked about it more in like the perspective of you as an individual. And now I want to expand that and talk about that in the perspective of you as a member of a community and a community as a process of expansion within the world. Because that's what communities are, but that's not what communities have been in a very long time. So it kind of brings up this whole top not kind of it brings up this whole topic of patriarchy and versus matriarchy. And this is not about men versus women. Like if you're still thinking that that's what we're talking about with these conversations, then that's not what we're talking about. And I would encourage you to try to understand more and expand your awareness a little bit more, because it's not about men versus women. It's about values, and it's about just like human nature and human consciousness. So like one of the grounding rules or patterns or ways of nature is that um, the feminine is really like it's spirit, it's God, it's consciousness, it's love, it's whatever you want to call it, it's spirit, right? And the foundation of kind of how I relate to myself is that we're on this earth to take the formless and bring it into form. Formless being feminine, so feminine being spirit, love, dreams, ideas, etc., however you want to characterize that. But That's sort of like the energy of the feminine. And we're here in this physical, very like tangible world where we have like fire, water, earth, air, all that kind of fun stuff to create, to take the formless, that which we cannot truly contextualize or touch or create some sort of a even language for. We're here to do our best to create language for that, whether it's through actual language or whether it's through music or through community building or actually creating and building things, engineering things, whatever the case. That's what we're here for. And so when you think about it like that, it's really this concept that the formless being feminine, and then the masculine is the system through which we do that. It's the tools, it's the logic, it's the even like hierarchy in the sense of like having a structured program, not like me versus you, I'm better than you, but like having structure. um, those things are also necessary. Those are the things that we need in order to take the feminine and bring it into form. So the way that I also think about it is like, for example, if you have water, that being the feminine, being spirit, being God consciousness, and you just kind of like throw it from your hands into the air, it just spills everywhere and then it evaporates. You can't do anything with it. It's pretty like useless. Um, yeah, it's like that's the end of the story. There's nothing that you can do with it. But if you take that water and you shoot it through a hose, right? You shoot it through like this rigid structure that's man-made, and you just push it through. Well, now you can control the water, and now you can put the water, you can use the water to like feed and nourish plants. You can use it to drink water, you can use it to clean things, you can use it to do whatever the heck you want to do. But now it becomes like a fun little game because you can take that water and you can let it take different forms and you can use it to do different things, and that's what makes life fun, right? So that's sort of like the foundation, that's sort of like just the nature of things. It's just how nature works. um, and so when you follow that logic, it's like the feminine is meant to lead and the masculine is then meant to execute. It executes the direction of where the feminine wants to go, what she wants to create. And this is not about men versus women. It's about this process that I'm talking about happens inside of every single one of us as individuals. And so now what I've been thinking about and what I've been wanting to talk about is like, how does that process then translate into a societal level? Because we've been going through a lot of societal level shifts. And so, like I was saying before, we're kind of going through this massive collapse, and a lot of us are starting to feel like we want to build community. And I think that we're feeling the need to build community because we're starting to realize a lot of the communities that we had in the past were not built in truth, right? A lot of the communities, just think about like, especially like school age, um, or just society at large. Like, think about how a lot of communities are formed. A lot of people form groups just based off of their own limiting beliefs so that they can have other people validate them in their fears and in their dysfunction so that they don't feel wrong in their dysfunction. A lot of people build groups in order to feel a sense of protection and defense because they don't feel safe. A lot of people form groups because they feel so inadequate inside of themselves that they want to rise to the top of the group dynamic so that they can have power and feel a sense of finally belonging. And on the flip side, a lot of people also join groups because they feel comfortable in being a follower because that was some sort of trauma that they learned from their childhood or from their life experiences, and now they feel uncomfortable being followers, so they keep submitting themselves to these, or sorry, they feel uncomfortable being leaders, so they keep submitting themselves into these roles of followers. So essentially what I'm saying is a lot of the group dynamics that we've been experiencing as a human species and a collective have been very dysfunctional, and it's not based in truth. And that's where this topic of matriarchy comes from. And the reason why I want to talk about matriarchy is because if you're feeling like this energy of wanting to build in the world and create community, which, like I said, so many of us are starting to kind of come out of our little healing, cocoons and little healing circles, and wanting to like expand and like, just shoot our roots out everywhere. It's important that you go out into the world and you do it in a way that's not how we used to do it. You don't want to go out and build a community and just repeat your old patterns and start and connect in the same way that you were connecting before, because how we were connecting before was very dysfunctional. So you need to realize that a lot of us are feeling activated to connect and create communities because there's a larger process happening. And that larger process is the integration of a matriarchal society. And when I say matriarchal society, so then that brings up the question like, WTF is that? Um, And like I said, it's not about men versus women, it's about values. So in a matriarchal society, um, the priority is different. It's not about me trying to, rise up to the ranks. It's not about me trying to, just hide from my fears or make myself small so that I can feel like I can submit. It's not about conformity for the sake of belonging and safety. It's none of that. In a matriarchy, it's individuality, but without like the fear, right? So in patriarchy, there's a sense of individuality because you want to separate yourself so that you can rise up to the group and dominate. In matriarchy, it's individuality for the sake of just being yourself. So you are fully accepted as who you are. You are embraced and you are actually encouraged to be who you are. It's not about conforming and trying to belong to the system. It's a circle, right? It's not a pyramid. It's a circle. And so each and every single one of us has the space to dance in whatever way that we want to dance and show up in whatever way that we want to show up in. Number two, the other value in a matriarchal society that I think a lot of times we don't talk about, but I really think that we're not going to heal until we start to humanize Mother Earth. So we see Mother Earth as a lot of us are very lost in this illusion of separation. And not only do we see ourselves separate from human beings, we also see ourselves separate from animals and plants. And we see ourselves separate from Mother Earth as a whole. And the reason why I think this is huge is because I've said it on in my videos before, I think the root of all of this is really just a problem of disconnection with our bodies, because the body is the portal to higher consciousness. It's where we heal ourselves. It's where we find the intelligence within our intuition. It's where we purge our deeper emotional wounds. It's where we connect to ourselves. It's where we feel love. Everything is through the body. And we are so disconnected from the body because dissociation was a coping mechanism that we learned to escape the pain of the body, right? Because we were living in a painful world. Therefore, all of that pain, subconscious, that you were living in is stored in your body. Therefore, that is very uncomfortable. And so you shoot up into your brain. And that's how most of us are living in this hyper intellectual world. And so the first step in healing is that you must learn how to slowly, because it's scary, slowly come back into your body and trust the intelligence of your body, because your body is intelligent. And that's sort of what I was trying to say. The point of what I was trying to say was that get back to this understanding that our bodies, like our physical bodies, are intelligent, and they're in fact much more intelligent than our conscious brains are, right? Like our bodies, or our conscious mind is, I should say. Our bodies are incredibly intelligent, and Mother Nature is incredibly intelligent. And every single time that we sit here and think that we're separate from the forces of nature, we are separating ourselves and shooting ourselves much more up into our brains than if we finally just accepted that I am not separate from nature. In fact, I am nature. My atoms are literally from the earth. And there is no separation. So, this reverence for the earth and reverence for the human body and the intelligence of the body is also a core value of matriarchy. And then another core value of matriarchy is also regeneration. So, this concept that the power that I'm seeking, this eternal force, this eternal joy that I'm seeking, it's inside of myself, and I have the ability to regenerate. When I lose that connection, I can go back inside of myself and I can find it and I can excavate it. And if I see somebody else suffering from a loss of connection, I can remind them that they can also regenerate that power within themselves. So, it's not the system of like, I'm powerless. I must then seek power from other people in whatever way that I can do it. And therefore I finally find power. That's not the point of that, right? We do that because we forget that we have a regenerative force inside of ourselves. So it's about coming back to this sort of um regenerative living. But when I say that, I feel like that's so hard to say, regenerative. But anyways, when I say regenerative, I also mean in addition to what I just said, I also mean it's about getting back into alignment with the life and death processes that are happening inside of us. So, like that relationship to death specifically that we've lost, like a lot of us have lost that again because we are so obsessed with this human illusion of the world that we have become attached to the human life. And because we're attached to the human life, we have completely forgotten that there's an eternal force within us, right? And so our relationship to death is very much this thing of like fear and the unknown, and like I'm running away from death, and every single fear and everything that you do is like very deeply subconsciously you can trace it back to the fear of death. And so we also need to reframe and reconnect to what death is and what death means, and to be able to embrace death, because when you see death as really kind of like the ultimate initiation into something higher, It's still a little bit scary because it's the unknown and that's just how the human brain works, but you develop a very kind of sacred relationship to it and the spirit of death in general, right? Because we're constantly dying. We are, as long as we're living, we're also dying. So building that relationship. And so these are the values that I'm laying out just from what I've thought about. But comment down below other values and other things that you've noticed about matriarchal societies or just ways that you think our society is evolving towards, because these are the values that I think you should look for if you are feeling that pulse to go back out into the world and reconnect and rebuild, because we can't rebuild in the way that we did before. It's very clear that that wasn't working. It's very clear that a lot of us just couldn't like conform to that, and a lot of us were just getting sick because our communities themselves were not built in truth and in anything real or in authentic connection, right? So like those, you want to kind of like shift your perspective and shift your values so that when you go out into the world and you begin building your community, that you have these values at heart. Because when you build a community, you're transacting your energy and your information with other people, and in that process you magnify it. So imagine the power of what happens when you build a community based on those values that I just said, because when you do that, you expand that. So you become activated by your community members become activated by you, and now all of a sudden there's this like surge of energy, and then your community as a whole, as like an entity of its own, then activates other communities, and that's how we, do our part in the world. That's how we like fulfill our dharma. That's how we um change the way that things are going. That's how we literally change the way that we're evolving. So yeah, those were some of my thoughts about community building and matriarchy. Please share, like I said below or before, please share below what your thoughts are, and just like, are you interested in building community? How do you plan on doing that? What are like some ideas you have on how to do that? And how do you plan on doing that differently than the way that we've been doing it in the past? Because I feel a really positive shift happening. I feel like we are really pivoting and changing the way that we connect to each other, and that's how we heal. And that's how we also like revolutionize ourselves against a very um crumbling society that we're in, and from a lot of dark forces in the world. So, yeah, like I said, comment below, share your insight, and I guess I shall catch y'all in the next video. Bye.